Blackstar Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Blackstar Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Today is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Blackstar Network. Will Texas Democrats remain holding out from having a quorum in the House? Could they be headed back home? We'll talk to State Rep Jelana Jones about their plans. California Governor Gavin Newsom makes clear California will act if Texas does, and he says we're going to end the Trump presidency. Governor JB Pritzker of Illinois signs a new law making it clear that if you're a cop and you've been fired for wrongdoing, it now has to be reported if you apply somewhere else. It's all related to the death of Sonya Massey. We'll talk to attorney Ben Crump about that. Donald Trump, he's got federal law enforcement patrolling the streets of D.C. There's a long history of white supremacists doing this in America. Michael Harriet of Contraband Camp will be joining us to break this whole thing down on the show, folks. Lots to talk about, and I can't wait to bring the funk right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Blackstar Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time, and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
Texas House Democrats have been driving Republicans crazy by holding out, preventing them from having a quorum, allowing them to pass their racist gerrymandered map. Now, the Texas Senate passed the map when 9 of the 11 Democrats walked out. Now, here's what's crazy. If all 11 Democrats had walked out, the Republicans could not have passed the map. Okay, so first of all, I'm still confused. I don't get it. If you can block the map, why in the hell don't all 11 walk out? If all 11 think it's a racist gerrymandered map, why would 2 stay? I don't understand that. Okay, but again, you've got 51 House Republicans that have to stay out in order to meet the quorum. The math is not mathing. So the question is, are they going to do that? Now, the special session is about to come to an end. Now, the governor can immediately call for a second special session. So what does this all mean? Yolanda Jones, state rep out of Houston, joins us right now. She is one of the holdouts. Glad to have you on the show. So, okay, let's just walk through the mechanics of this. When does this special session actually end?
So it will naturally end on Tuesday. However, the governor has said that he is going to end it on Friday. We'll see.
Okay, so now what does that?
That's when it.
So what does that mean? If it's supposed, because it's supposed to be 30 days, right?
Yes, a special session is 30 days.
So
so
he can end it early?
Yeah, he can. And that's what he said he's going to do. I think he's tired of being embarrassed, threatening us to come back, can't find us, and they never have a quorum. It's a kangaroo court, so I think he's just trying to save face.
Okay, so if he ends it on Friday, he said he's going to immediately call for a second session. How does that work?
And then that'll be for 30 days. So he maybe could do it. He could do it on Friday if he wanted to. So we don't know. We don't control that. We'll find out when we get notice of it. But I don't doubt what he's saying because he has a hard on to try to give Trump what he wants. So he's going to do it pretty quickly, I would imagine. So maybe Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, maybe Monday. I don't know.
All right, so, and how does that process work? Because he has to actually issue a proclamation, and obviously Republicans, if they leave, they all got to come back. So there's some actual time there that exists there, and that now causes you and other House Democrats to decide if all 51 of you are going to stay away.
Right. So some people don't understand what it means to quorum break, like what that means. So let me explain that to you, and then maybe it's easier to understand. So there are 150 of us. We are made up of 88 Republicans and 62 Democrats. In order to conduct business in the House, a supermajority or 100 of us have to show up before we can vote on anything or hear anything. So with only 88 Republicans, they've got to find 12 Democrats to go with them in order to be able to conduct business. Hence the quorum break, where we make sure enough of us are not there so that they can't reach 100. We have had 9 Democrats go there, so they need to get 3 of us in order to make quorum. So that's what that's about. Now, to pass anything in the House, to pass this redistricting racist map that appears to me to be AI generated and surgically precise to identify Black and brown concentrations of people, divide us up, which is called cracking us, and then diluting our power by packing us in other districts that are majoritarily not us. So it takes 76 votes, which is a majority of 150. So if we get quorum, there's no way we can stop them. They literally have enough Republicans to shove the maps down our throats, which is why quorum breaking is so important.
Yeah. So last week, I had Representative Anchia on the show, and we talked about this here, and he said, clearly that, we're going to have to, return and fight this out. And I said, I'm confused. Well, you're not fighting anything. I said, because they have the numbers. I said, if you allow them to have a quorum, they will pass these maps in 60 seconds with 30 seconds to spare. And one of the things that he said is that, well, we've gotten the nation's attention. We got other Democrats doing what they're doing. And I was like, no, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm not understanding your point here. I said, because if you do this, I said, if you allow that number, if you allow them to have a quorum, it's getting passed. And this is why I don't understand. And again, I had Senator Boris Miles on yesterday. He said, hey, I respect my colleagues. I still don't understand that if 11 Democrats had walked out in the Senate, Republicans could not have passed the map. Why the hell would 2 stay?
You know what? I'll let them speak for themselves. I think the different people define fighting differently is all I can say. So I'm not going to speak to their motivations. I'm not in the Senate. The only person I can control is myself, and I'm down to fight to stop them from having a quorum, because at the end of the day, 88 always beats 62. It just does.
Well, and here's what's happening. And listen, we got to put this on the table, Representative Jones, because it's real. Greg Abbott gave an interview on Fox News where he said, well, this is not racist because we're creating 5 majority Hispanic districts. What I hear out of Texas is that some Latinos say, hey, wait a minute, if they're creating 5 Hispanic districts, then that's a good thing for us. Well, we also know that you have 4 districts that are African American that would get slashed to 2. So you have some Hispanic politicians in Texas. If you're saying, hey, we stand together black and brown, are they going to stand with African Americans on this? That has to be put on the table.
Well, for sure it does. And I'm almost certain you talked about this, but they literally, in these racist gerrymandered maps, they literally moved Jasmine Crockett's house to CD 33. She represents CD 30. So they moved her into Mark Vesey's district. And along with that, they took out Tarrant County, which is his stronghold. They took a lot of that out of 33. So they're going to make Jasmine and Mark Vesey have to duke it out. And that's going to be reduced from 2 black seats to 1 black seat. The same is true in Harris County. They have literally racistly gerrymandered Congressman Green's district. That's the guy, he's your frat brother, who shook the cane, for people who may not know, at the State of the Illusion, is what I call it, and was escorted out or manhandled out, whatever it is you want to call it. They literally moved his house into Congressional District 18, which is where Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner served, both of whom have recently died. And so they have changed his district. They took 70.7% of his constituents and put them in CD18. Now, what you have to understand about these maps is every congressional district has to have the same number of people. So if you take 70.7% of Congressman Green's district and put it into CD18, you have to remove 70.7% of CD18. So the new CD18 really has a majority of CD9, the former CD9, and it's moved out 70.7 of what was CD18. So it's going to be a bloodbath between Congressman Green and whatever black person ends up being the representative for CD18. So it is a hot mess, and it is disingenuous, and he has not created more opportunities for us to pick the congressperson of our choice. And it's also minimized. It has diluted black people's ability to elect a congressperson of their choice. And here's what people may not know. Texas has the highest number of blacks in any state in the United States. We only have 4 black seats.
Right.
We only make up 12.33% of the population, and the vast majority of the population is concentrated in the Dallas area and in the Houston area. And if you wipe out 2 seats, we're never going to get them back.
Right.
Ever. And something else they did, Roland, really quickly, this is what they did with Acres Homes, which you know has always been in CD18, and Independence Heights, and Shepherd Park Terrace. They literally cracked those black people and moved them into CD29, which is currently represented by Congresswoman Garcia. So Acres Homes, Independence Heights, and Shepherd Park Terrace will not have a black congressperson, even though they've always had a black congressperson.
Right, but the question I'm asking, are the conversations taking place with Hispanic lawmakers to say, listen, we got to hold because, hey, they may be saying they're creating 5 Hispanic districts, but black folks get screwed. Are those conversations being had? Is the Democratic caucus, are y'all saying, hey, we have to remain in lockstep because it only takes 3 to blow all this up, and black people are the ones who are absolutely screwed. Are those discussions happening?
I'm having the discussions, but I'm having those discussions. We're talking. We hadn't figured out what. I mean, it's just a very difficult position to be in, and we're trying to figure it out. But I'm having the discussions. I always talk about.
Is leadership having the conversation? Because listen.
So I'm not leadership, so I can't tell you what they.
Well, but again, I got to go back to what happened previously. What happened previously is you had some Democrats, including African American. Oh no, we got to fight this out. And I'm going, there is no fight. Sure, you can go back and give speeches. You can go back and, shake your fists and pound the table. And Republicans, this is what they gonna do. Let me know when y'all done. Listen, I've served.
Well, they'll get up and walk out.
Right,
they'll get up and walk out, so they'll be on their phone.
I've served. I've never run for elected office. I never planned to. It ain't gonna happen unless the Lord tells me, and that ain't what He told me. But I've been in organizations, and when I've been in organizations, and when I got the votes, this is me in the meeting. Let me know when y'all done, because when we vote, I already got the numbers. Voting, elections are about numbers. If you got them, you got them. And you've already said. So the only way Democrats can stop this from taking place is if they do not allow a quorum. And so Democrats in the House have got to stay united on this. Otherwise, black people and Democrats in Texas are screwed. And as you said, they are at a bare minimum. These districts will be in place for the next 4 years.
4 or 5 years. Probably through 2030, almost certainly.
Right.
And so, I think that right now we're here. Right now we're down. We are hopeful that the governor will do exactly what he said, which is to end the special session on Friday. And then we just have to wait to see what he's going to do with the second special session, which there's no doubt in my mind that he is going to do, although we have begged that man to please allow us to deal with the flood relief for all of over 130
that ain't
Texans who died.
That ain't happening. I mean, it ain't happening. I mean, they do not care about flood relief. This is the number one thing on the agenda. They do not care about flood relief. It doesn't matter. The Republicans are now forcing his hand as well. This is the most important thing, and we all know it. And so and again, I understand, look, you're dealing with colleagues, y'all having sensitive conversations. I'm going to say it. Let me know when we get her signal back. I'm going to say this point blank, because somebody has to go ahead and be very clear and say it. White Hispanic lawmakers who are Democrats, if there is any moment where they are going to have to stand with black people, this is that moment. This is not a moment. I don't want to hear, I'm sorry, when I had the representative on last week, he was making it sound like to me that they were giving up. Well, we're going to go, we're going to have to eventually go back and we're going to have to fight this. And I get it. It is let me know if we have Representative Jones back. There's a sacrifice. Folks have families. They have jobs. They have all of those different things. I get all of that. But let's be clear.
Some kind of way I got disconnected.
Okay, all right, so you're back. You're back. So if your signal went out, we got your back. And I get it. People are away from families. They're away from jobs. All those different things. Let me know what's up, y'all. What's going on? Do we have Representative Jones or not? Because I want her to give her final comments. I know we got Ben Crump coming up in 8 minutes, so let me know when we got Representative Jones back. But the bottom line is, y'all, they have no choice but to hold out. There's no such thing as fighting. There will not be convincing. There's no Republican that is going to be convinced to vote against these maps. Not one. Not one. Not one. And I don't care how passionate, listen, when Senator Cory Booker stood up there and broke Strom Thurmond's record, when he was done, this would happen. And then they went, Chair, I move the nomination of so-and-so. Boom. That's what happened. Representative Jones, I think we got you back. Your final comment, please.
My final comment is we really need for people around the country to pay attention to what's happening in Texas. And here's why. We didn't pay attention to what happened in North Carolina last year in 2024 when they racistly redistricted and stole 3 seats. Trump has a 3 Republican majority in Congress. The only reason, that we got all these tariffs, everything is more expensive, you're getting kicked off your health insurance, they're trying to rob us of our Social Security, is because those 3 votes they stole in North Carolina are coming back to bite us. That's why we're letting everybody know what is going on in Texas, because he's trying to do the same thing, because he knows his policies are very unpopular, because life is real hard for us right now. So please pray for us. You can support the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. We are fighting. We are 10 toes down for you, and this is important. And what happens in Texas is not going to stay in Texas. Roland can tell you that because he's from Texas.
Well, I'll say this here. It wasn't that they weren't paying attention then. The real issue, they weren't paying attention in 2018 when Sherry Beasley ran for Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and lost by 401 votes. Had she won, Democrats would have had a 6-1 majority on the state Supreme Court. They would have stopped political gerrymandering, because what happened was North Carolina had a 10-3 margin, 10 Republicans, 3 Democrats. Then when the Democrats took control of the state Supreme Court, they tossed out political and racial gerrymandering. Then it was 7-7. Well, she lost. Democrats had a 4-3 majority. The next election in 2020, they lost and it flipped. Then it was 4-3 Republican. Then an African-American judge decided to run for senator. He didn't make the primary. So the Republicans had a 5-2 majority. That's why they were fighting so hard for this last Supreme Court race. So right now it's 5 Republicans, 2 Democrats. Next year, Anita Earls, a sister, is on the ballot. She has to win to maintain the 5-2 Republican majority. But in 2028, 3 of those Republican seats are up. Now, Democrats won this year the governor's mansion, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, Supreme Court race, and the school superintendent. They can win those 3 seats on the Supreme Court in 28, and all of a sudden, they can outlaw partisan gerrymandering. So we, and a lot of black people didn't vote, we have got to be paying attention to state Supreme Court races, as well as gubernatorial races and U.S. Senate and presidential races, because that's how we lost in North Carolina in those 3 seats. Representative Jones, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate you.
Folks, California Governor Newsom has said, Texas, you make this move, I'm telling you, we're going to wipe out your seats in California. This is what he had to say about that very issue. This is a tweet that he put out. Donald Taco Trump, as many call him, missed the deadline. California will now draw new, more beautiful maps. They will be historic as they will end the Trump presidency. Dems take back the House. Big press conference this week with powerful Dems and Gavin Newsom, your favorite governor. That will be devastating for MAGA. Thank you for your attention to this matter, GN. He obviously was trolling Donald Trump with that particular tweet. Let me bring in my panel real quick here on this very issue. First of all, before I bring them in, you got Congressman Kevin Kiley of California. He's really upset with what Gavin Newsom is saying, but he's not calling out Texas. Roll it.
Newsom has targeted me again and again. Last year, he actually sent his own staff member to run against me, and I won by 46,000 votes. And the reason he's targeting me is very clear, because I've been leading the opposition to his absolutely insane policies, and we've actually been very successful in reversing a number of them. For example, my bill to overturn his ban on gas-powered vehicles was passed and signed into law by President Trump. We've cut off his funding for high-speed rail. We've reversed his worst crime policies. I've introduced a bill to reverse the sanctuary state. I'm fighting against his men and women's sports policies. So, of course, Newsom wants me gone. This is merely an attempt to eliminate political opposition, but his past attempts to target me have failed, and I'm confident that this one's going to fail as well.
Yeah, and I know that you recently introduced a bill to limit redistricting to the beginning of each decade. I know you said that Newsom is subverting the will of voters and trying to wipe out essentially what remains of the California Republican Party. There's only 9 of you guys. Can you tell me more about that bill?
Yeah, of course. So my concern is first and foremost for what's going on in California, and Gavin Newsom.
I don't want to hear all that. Bottom line is he ain't said shit in Texas, and this is real simple. If Texas didn't do what they do, Gavin Newsom wouldn't be doing what he's doing. Rebecca Carruthers, President, CEO, Fair Election Center out of D.C., Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida, out of Orlando. Glad to have both of you on my panel. Rebecca, this is real simple. I don't want to hear a damn thing from any Republican whining about what Democrats are doing in California and New York State or Illinois or Virginia or Maryland, because they've been silent about what's happening in Texas. And it's real simple. If Texas does not steal 5 seats, Democrats elsewhere are not going to act. Pure and simple. So I don't want to hear all of this, oh my God, this whining and complaining and the pearl clutching from Fox News or any Republican. Literally shut the hell up.
Roland, I saw some analysis online today that showed in up to 32 states across the country, there's an over-indexing in Republican seats. And so what's really interesting about this is for many years, there have been Democrats who have called for a national nonpartisan redistricting to be implemented for federal seats across the country. And for the most part, Republicans have bucked against it. And so now seeing what has happened in up to, nearly 3 dozen states with Republicans actually having more seats than what they actually should have if you go based upon the population and based upon the political bid in these states, and you go based upon fair maps. What's interesting in this is that, yes, I see that there is going to be a pushback against Gavin Newsom or even Governor Pritzker in Illinois or Governor Hochul in New York. If New York, Illinois, and California move forward with doing extreme partisan gerrymandering. The issue here is that some states have moved for quote unquote fair maps, but that's hard to do if you are unilaterally disarming, especially when you have a state like Texas, you have states like Ohio, you have states like Missouri who've indicated, hey, you know what? We're just out here to steal seats. We're out here to make sure that we have to we're going to force voters to vote for people that the voters normally would not vote for. We're going to force voters into districts to retain power. That's what we're seeing here. And so there really is going to have to be a national movement of what to do next. There has to be a détente because this is going to be a very bad path for the Republican Party. This will ultimately also be a bad path for the Democratic Party because right now one party might be up, but tomorrow that party might be down. And so this ultimately is not good for democracy. However, states cannot unilaterally disarm here. And if Texas is going to move forward, then, the other states have every right to say, hey, we have a say on what the national balance is going to be in Congress.
Larry, yesterday I had State Senator Boris Miles on, and he danced around the question. Representative Jones, I understand why she had to answer the way she did. I totally get it. But Larry, it has to be put on the table that if Hispanic lawmakers and white lawmakers allow a quorum, black people are screwed. Black representation is screwed. And so they are going to have to hold the line. Hold the line. They got to hold the line here. And they can't just fall for, well, we're going to get 5 districts. And that's what Greg Abbott, here you go. We're going to get 5 Latino districts. And they may go for it. Black people will be screwed. This is where black people got to say, oh, hell no. Don't y'all fall for the okie doke. Don't you allow that to happen.
Yeah, so if you're going to talk about solidarity, you got to be willing to take a stand when everything is at risk. So, Roland, we think about the civil rights movement. It was a collaboration of a variety of groups from different from races, religions, et cetera, come together to make sure they fight for the Civil Rights Act, voting rights, et cetera. So this is the new battle to make sure that we do not dilute Black political participation. And so if those Latino and white Democrats are willing to give up, we'll have fewer members of the CDC. They won't chair committees. They won't have the opportunity to fight against all the bills we're seeing being passed on the House. And this is not acceptable. And I'm really glad you brought up this topic, because it's in time for uncomfortable conversations. You can't simply say, well, we're going to give up, or we gave it a good try, college try. That's not going to work. Black folks, in terms of representation in the House, is at stake. And this is going to continue, as my colleague just highlighted, in other states throughout the country.
Yep, absolutely. So, listen, I'm just telling you right now, Hispanics do this, they're getting called out. I'm just letting you know. All right, we'll take a real quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with Ben Crump about a new law named after Sonya Massey in Illinois. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Blackstar Network.
Now streaming on the Blackstar Network.
Getting like this major artist like Snoop to be like, yeah, you're going to be the flagship of Death Row Records is crazy. Because I'm like, okay. When he got the call, I was in the room. He was sealing the deal. It's done. And I was like, man, congratulations. You know, I got me a drink. You know, he rolled up, and we were sitting there talking. And I was like, oh man, I can't imagine how many rappers you're going to have on this label. What's going to be? He was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's Death Row, Tupac, Suge, the whole look. And he's like, no, you're going to be the flagship for it. You're going to do it first. And I'm like,
you try. Well, hold up.
I'm like, I'm R&B. Like, right. This Death Row's not R&B. He said it is now. He was like, I'll get rappers later. Don't worry about that, but I want you to take over. I'm like, oh, I was nervous. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. People are, and of course you get a little backlash from, on the comment section, when he's posting about it. It's just like, he's R&B. That's not Death Row. And we had to slowly kind of get people acclimated to it.
Week on the other side of change.
Diaspora wars. The internet has been swarmed. Who has a right to Blackness and Black culture? Who is overrepresented, underrepresented? It's too much. It's making us dizzy.
We don't have to be prideful without this air of superiority, right? All stories matter within this Black sphere that we exist in.
Only on the other side of change on the Blackstar Network.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, Illinois Governor JB Pritzker signed a new bill into law named after Sonya Massey. The bill, the first of its kind in the country, makes sure that every potential police officer goes through a deep background check before they get a badge. It's named for Massey, who was killed by Deputy Sean Grayson, a man with a history of disciplinary issues and DUIs that should have never been ignored. At the bill signing, her family stood alongside state leaders saying they hope this law will save lives and rebuild trust between police and community. Joining us is Massey family attorney Ben Crump. Ben, glad to have you on the show. Ben, this is an example of the type of action, and we saw this with Breonna Taylor in Louisville as well, that when y'all have these cases, it's not just reaching a settlement with the city or the county or the agency, it's also trying to change laws so these things don't happen again.
Exactly, Roland Martin, and it's always about trying every day to say, Lord, please allow us to be able to close down our police brutality department in our law firm, because that means Sonya Massey will still be living, Breonna will still be living, George Floyd, and so many others. And so yesterday was the culmination of the activists in the streets, the lawyers in the courtrooms, and the lawmakers and the elected officials all working together to say, like Sonya Massey said, Roland, to remind people, before she was shot in her face, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus if you think that my death is going to be in vain. Not only did we get a historic settlement for a black woman in the state of Illinois, but Sean Grayson, the officer who shot her, is facing murder charges. That trial comes up in 2 months. But most importantly and most impactful to the community and society, the Sonya Massey Bill is now law that says a police officer in Illinois cannot come and interview with a job without getting all of his previous employment history submitted. He must sign a release, and then the police department that is interviewing him can ask for that information, and they must get that information within 2 weeks before they make a decision to hire this officer. It's precedent setting because, Roland, Tamir Rice would be alive today had Cleveland Police Department not hired a person who had just been terminated a month before he got onto the Cleveland Department and shot that 12-year-old baby. Monique Presley and I, Joshua Feast in Lamert, Texas. The officer had been charged with a crime in the neighboring police department, crossed the city line, and got a job at this police department in Lamert, Texas, and killed Joshua Feast, shot him in the back. So the hope is that this will set a precedent, Roland Martin, and we know Sonya Massey name will live forever because of the bold leadership of the Illinois legislator and Governor JB Pritzker.
So when they say deep background check, does that mean that police departments that take action, are they going to have to report this somewhere? Is there a database that's going to be, people could be able to research? How's that going to work?
Well, they put the onus on the police departments and the officers. So take this Sonya Massey case, for instance. This guy had been to 6 police departments in 4 years. And Sangamon County Sheriff's Department claims that they did not know about his history. Well, now when the police department is interviewing them, they make him sign a release that they get to put out at the state law enforcement agency, as well as anybody he's told them that he has previously worked for, and that they have to give him his personnel file, his history, if he had any complaints, if he had any charges, anything. Now, that police department, you can't tell the police department who you can and cannot hire. But if they hire him and he commits an act, then you are accountable based on a lawyer being able to say, you never should have hired him in the first place. So you are liable for whatever actions that he is being charged with and alleged with. So that's what they are trying to do. They could not tell police departments that they can't hire a person, but they're saying you get his background information, and if you hire him with red flags and something happens, then you're on the hook.
Wow, well, that is really, really important. And is it your plan to try to take this across the state to get other states to do this?
Yeah, and the fortunate thing is the brother Evans, the Speaker of the House for Illinois House of Representatives, is now the president of the state black legislators for America. And so hopefully he can encourage his colleagues around the nation. Look what we did in Illinois in the aftermath of the tragic killing of Sonya Massey. So hopefully we can make some unanimity. But for those who don't have the courage to do it, say Illinois did it, why can't we do it? And so that's the hope. Roland, can I move to one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Man, William McNeil, Jacksonville, Florida. I don't know if you saw the breaking news today. Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida's Department of Law Enforcement, came out and said that the police officers that brutalized William McNeil, this college student who they racially profiled for driving while black, talking about it was raining, and he should have had his lights on when it was broad daylight. Everybody could see it. And even when the sheriff's deputies' cars pulled up, you saw none of them had their headlights on either. And, you know, they busted the glass roller and they punched them in their car. They pulled him out of their car, punched him some more, put him in handcuffs, slammed his head against the ground 3 to 4 times. Florida Department of Law Enforcement came out and said that the officer did nothing wrong, and they continue to try to blame the victim, talking about where he should have simply complied. This is Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis America, and we have to stand up against that. So we're going to file our lawsuit because that's within our power, but we have to continue to protest because William McNeil did everything right. Attorney Harry Daniels and I keep talking about it. I mean, he didn't de-escalate anything. He just simply asked, can you bring your supervisor because I see that you're lying to me. And so Ron DeSantis says there's nothing wrong with the police doing that to people, so we can't let that stand, Roland Martin. We cannot let that stand.
Well, we're talking about racist Florida, so this is no shock at all. Ben Crump, I do want to ask you this here. Just want to get your thoughts on what's happening in D.C. What's amazing to me is you got these white commentators on television saying, "Oh, you know, this is difficult because people want to see crime stop. So this is Democrats shouldn't be talking about charts and graphics and crime dropping." Ben, I think that's stupid because when they use the same graphics and charts to show that crime went up, well, how in the hell should you counter if you have crime at historic lows and we know exactly what this is? And this is actually, and listen, listen, I'm working D.C. I'm telling you right now, ain't no cops on our street right here. We know where they send them folks are, to black neighborhoods. We know what's going on here.
You know, Roland, as somebody who many refer to as Black America's Attorney General, I will tell you their argument is disingenuous. I like what you said on social media. The most crime being committed in Washington, D.C. is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And the fact that they are violating the constitutional rights. I mean, if the government is allowed to break the law in times because they say it's an emergency, then all they'll simply do is try to create an emergency just so they can break the law. But here, there is no issue. It is a solution looking for a problem so he can try to shift people's attention away from Epstein and other things. He continues to try to distract. This is a dangerous precedent that is being set by this administration, and the fact that you have crime at a record low. It's so problematic. January 6th, you didn't use the Federal National Guard when they were storming the Capitol. I mean, the citadel of democracy. But now you want to try to go usurp the authority of black mayors and black cities just so you can gain political points. It is what I call the intellectual justification of discrimination.
No, absolutely. Ben Crump, always a pleasure, brother. Keep it up.
I love you, Roland. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch. All right, folks. Look, this is the reality that we're living in and what we're having to face here. And Larry, listen, you're there in Florida, and we're dealing with the White House. They will say or do whatever when it comes to cops. They will protect them at every juncture, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Roland, you know, listen, it's conversation, and being in the state and having a black male son, is difficult. But you're right. This is the same stuff. We not only in terms of we dealing with disproportionately how black folks are killed by police officers 2 to 3 times the rate of white folks. But I'm glad Illinois passed this law. But we need this in all 50 states in the District of Columbia, and none of us are going to feel safe until we have that. But this is the same old story about black folks being dehumanized, and it's no matter if you comply to what extent. You're in danger anytime you have these kind of interactions. That's why we have to call out individuals who profile black folks to make sure that we hold them accountable. And I'm glad, Attorney Crump is, has lawsuit, but we need to continue to focus on these disproportionate rates. Like I said, black folks are pulled over. And I'm glad we're talking about this on your show, because I don't feel safe when I get in a car, and this is a reality. And I don't think that people who don't watch a show understand this is a lived experience of being a black in America. But it's also tiring.
Black people in America, they don't care if we're shot. They don't care if we're killed. Because the reality is, when you talk about crime in America, it is always, 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 always being used to press the buttons of fear of white America, and we have been on the receiving end of that countless times. Rebecca?
You know what, Roland? I'm thinking back to like 2009, 2010, 2011, and some of the criticisms or some of the conversations that were happening within the Black community, and some of it was largely generational, of are we doing enough to hold Barack Obama's feet to the fire? Are we asking enough? Are we demanding enough? Are we actually going to that office of the presidency and making sure that we're getting our stuff? And the reason why I say that it was largely generational is that those who have experienced this in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, they had that lived experience. And so for many of us who weren't born then, and now we're experiencing what America is like when you go and you peel back the civil rights laws, where you're going back to Jim Crow, and we're in another Jim Crow now. One of the things is we have to figure out what's our lesson learned in this. When we have access to power again, what are we going to demand? What are we going to tell power that they have to do to bend to the needs of Black communities in this country to make sure never again? There are other communities that have largely said never again when horrific things have happened to them. And for Black communities in America, we're having our never again moment. And we have to be loud. We have to be brash about it. We have to say hell to respectability politics. Understand this isn't just about us fighting for survival, because we'll survive. We've been in this country for centuries, but we're now demanding to thrive. We're demanding 100 years now that we still have Black communities in this country and that we are thriving. And so we're really going to have to pay attention to the lessons that we're learning in this moment. So when we do have access to power again, we get those things and those permanent things that we need in order to make sure that our communities are safe and thriving into the future.
And listen, there's law enforcement folks who are doing their job, who are fighting, including the people at Noble. And so I was sent this here. Noble over the weekend and earlier this week held their national conference, and of course, so they presented me this. Unfortunately, I could not attend their conference, and I wish I could. So hopefully, I'll be able to sort of go speak to them next year. But they sent this to me. This is the 2025 Noble Civil Rights Outstanding Media Leadership Justice by Action Award, and presented to me right here. And so. This is a fantastic award here. I certainly appreciate this award from Noble. They have been absolutely great in coming on this show, speaking to the issues that are important to our people. The work that we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered is absolutely about amplifying that work. When we talk about the cops out here who care about what's happening in our communities, who care about what happens to our people, that's Noble. And so I certainly appreciate them giving us this award. I say this all the time, and it's not just people like, oh, well, you just said no. And I mean 100%. And that is the work that we do is all about that very thing, doing the work. It's about doing the work. It's about speaking to our issues that matter. It's not about winning awards. In fact, there are a lot of award competitions that I never, ever enter us in because for me, it is about the work. But I appreciate Noble giving me this award, giving us this award, our staff, because of the work that we do, because we do understand how important all of this is. We do understand what matters to our people. We do understand when we talk about what's going on. We talk about the critical issues, and we've got to have law enforcement. We've got to have law enforcement who understands what it means for our people. We understand, and so when they are able to do what they do, and we are able to have them on the show, it's important. Our black law enforcement, they do matter. And listen, we know what happened with Tyree Nichols, and we got some black folks who act like some racist white cops. But the work that Noble does is hugely important, and I want to thank Noble again for this award and for them presenting this to us. Let me also do this here. Give me 1 second. I also want to congratulate Renee Hall. Give me 1 second. Let me open this up right here. So Noble sent this to us. You can go to my iPad now. Renee Hall is the former chief of police of Dallas, and she's been sworn in as the 48th president of Noble. And so we congratulate her on this. We look forward to having her on the show to talk about what she wants to do on behalf of Noble and the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And so again, Noble, I thank you for this award. I wish I could have been at your convention in Orlando, but I hope to see y'all soon. Folks, going to do a quick break. We'll be back talking to Michael Harriot. We're going to continue this conversation, talk about what's happening in D.C. It's a long history, again, of using the military against black folks. And so we're going to talk about that with him next. Don't forget, support the work that we do, folks. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. It's critically important you support our work, what we do every single day, y'all. Ain't nobody else in black-owned media doing what we do. I'm going to show you in a little bit later, but the YouTube stats came out. We have hit our highest point ever in the YouTube chart with number 40 this week in terms of top 100 podcasts. Listen, we don't have major advertisers cutting us checks. We ain't got no millionaires or billionaires sending us money, but your donations, and I'm telling you, your donations, we ask for $50 each. There's a lot of people say, Roland, I can't do 50. They do 25, 10, 5, 1. They actually put cash in my hand. We travel around the country. Folks also have given us more. Every single dollar and you give goes to this show, it's going back into this show. It's for staff. It's for all of our travelers, for all these different things. You know, we want to be on the road this fall with come to these elections. And there's no more important. We need black-owned media now more than ever. And what we do here, again, nobody else is doing what we're doing in black-owned media. You don't have a daily news show that centers African Americans anywhere else in this country. But this is what we do every single day. Your support is critical. You want to give to us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. Cash App changed their rules. They had to cancel our accounts. We use the Stripe QR code to give via Cash App. You can also use the Stripe QR code for credit cards as well. Checks and money ordered. I know some of y'all don't believe in this technical stuff. I get it. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, but it funds all the Blackstar Network. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Tape with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around black women's bodies, even black people, that we experience painless, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Blackstar Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Now, Donald Trump announced the National Guard and law enforcement going to be on the streets in D.C. Y'all, it's a joke. It's not real. Go ahead and roll a video, guys. Come on, roll the video right there. Roll your video. You see them standing on street corners, walking around, and it's like, oh, you've got a lot of these folks in white media talking about how great and amazing this is. And how this is just awesome. And, it's like they're keeping people safe. That's right. Y'all, they are walking in areas that's already safe. We all know what the real deal is. Look, go to my iPad. Look at this here. Why in the hell do you have National Guard on the mall? Ain't no damn crime on the National Mall in D.C. This is just a waste of damn time and money and resources. Oh, they got the Humvees parked out there and the military equipment and all that sort of nonsense. It's utterly silly that you see that. And then, of course, you have the folks out there. I love these white conservatives who love to sit here and they want to make it sound like it's a really important deal. They don't never want to bring up January 6th. Mehdi Hasan was on News Nation with Leland Vittert. I destroyed him when I was on there. And listen to this exchange, and Leland, he's still mad. He's still tweeting about it because he got owned. Listen to this.
You think it's because Trump cares about crime in D.C., really? Because I remember Donald Trump on January the 6th, 2021, not giving
Mehdi, oh, come on. Now for January 6th. Okay,
sorry,
Mehdi, no, Mehdi, come on.
Let me finish my point.
Mehdi,
This is a short segment.
I know you said that. 150 police officers got hurt.
Let me speak. Hold on. You gave Bill O'Reilly a lot of time. Let me give an answer. I'm here for much shorter time. Let me speak. On January 6th, 2021, you may want to move on for it. We all watched police officers in D.C. being attacked by a Trump-supporting mob, 150 injured, 600 people convicted.
Mehdi, you're going to sit here. We know the statistics of January 6th. Mehdi, you're going to sit here. Mehdi, you're going to sit here. Mehdi, you're going to sit here and say if Trump cures cancer, then January 6th was terrible. Okay, the fact of the matter is you can't have an argument. You can't have an argument about what's happening on the streets of D.C. without going back to January 6th.
Because it's about
you won't talk about actually the crime.
Donald Trump, Leland.
No, it's not. It's about how to have people be safe.
I said to you, Donald Trump doesn't care about crime in D.C. You said, yes, he does. And I said, I'm going to give you evidence to prove he doesn't. If he cared about crime in D.C., why did he pardon 600 people who assaulted police officers? You can't come and make this emotional
claim. Oh, come on, Mehdi. You can't. You're talking about completely different things.
You don't actually care about crime, then.
You cannot talk about this. There's completely different things going on.
Why?
What do you mean either I care about crime or I don't?
Where was the National Guard? Where was the National Guard on January 6th, 2021
Oh, come on. You can't do no. This is silly. This is absolutely silly, Mehdi. You can't do this.
Why?
No, because it has nothing to do with what's happening or what the arguments are right now. Okay? And you can't. No, it has nothing to do with it.
Crime matters in D.C. The victims of crime matter in D.C. What about the cops in D.C.?
And I'm the only person who died on January 6th was a Trump supporter. And you can't talk about what's happening on the streets right now.
Let me know when you want me to speak.
No, you can't talk about any. You cannot talk about this without talking about January 6th or anything else. You won't have an argument on the merits. Mehdi, thank you.
Then he ended the interview. See, that's what they do. That's what they do, y'all. And what happens is, again, they don't want to accept truth. They don't want to accept what are facts. And D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and I love it how I watched one interview and where they said, "Oh, the mayor of D.C. and the police chief, they agree with Trump." No, they said he has the legal authority to do it, but they're not saying, "Yay, let's do it." Here's the mayor laying out facts.
Experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but
we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike. This year, crime isn't just down from 2023, it's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low. We're not satisfied. We haven't taken our foot off the gas, and we continue to look for ways to make our city safer.
What are they trying to do? We know D.C. used to be called Chocolate City. It's more like Mocha City now. It's changed significantly. But what about right-wing hack Benny Johnson? Now, Benny Johnson, you know, who was getting about $400,000 a month from the Russians to pay up their talking points through a front company. Benny Johnson, who's been invited to the Trump White House on numerous times. Oh, the right, Trump loves Benny Johnson. But Benny Johnson said this here, and essentially, he wants to treat Washington, D.C. like Netanyahu is treating Gaza.
President Trump is doing God's work by refederalizing D.C. By the way, D.C. was set up as a federal city. It's in the Constitution. It's how our founding fathers intended it. These laws are still fully enforceable. They've never been rescinded or amended. President Trump and the executive, through the House of Representatives, controls Washington, D.C. President Trump controls budgets. House of Representatives and the Speaker of the House is technically and historically the mayor, the lead of D.C. That still remains on the books. What happened to D.C., especially during the civil rights period, was that protesters that were bussed up here stayed here. The city was burned to the ground. This happened during massive riots throughout the 60s and 70s. Mass swaths of the city were torched and were never really rebuilt. And so what President Trump is doing is reasserting control of not only our nation's capital, but truly the seat of Western civilization. It's one final little note here that kind of blends outside of the personal, which is that Washington, D.C. is a representation of the work of your forefathers and mine. It is, by every measure, a very beautiful city architecturally. It is a sacred city. It is a sovereign place with the monuments to great men and women who've sacrificed far more than you or I could ever dream for this country. It must be preserved because the peoples of Earth come here by the millions per year in order to witness the success or failures of our systems. And if you are a proud patriot and you love this country and you wish for it to be reflected honorably to the peoples of Earth, then Washington, D.C. must be swept clean. I believe entire neighborhoods probably need to be emptied, need to be bulldozed. I believe that there are places that are so crime-ridden and so infested that you just need to, you're just going to have to crack down. You're going to have to do the job, and you're going to have to get the crime out of Washington. That's my personal experience. Don't believe the bullshit that you hear online from some reporters. Oh, crime's down in D.C. Well, my infant nearly died in a drug fire after mass shootings. So no, D.C. is not safe. And I can tell you this, as a matter of fact, it is one of the worst, most racist narco states and welfare states imaginable. In that neighborhood that I would walk every single day, racial epithets were screamed at us, rocks were thrown at us because we were white people. This city is a sunken place. It is an unsafe place. I mean, if that's what happens to me, imagine what happens to somebody who's visiting here from a foreign country. Right? It's totally and wholly unsafe and a scar on the face of our country. And it must be healed. and President Trump is going about that heavy work.
Don't nobody believe that bullshit. Nobody. We know Benny Johnson lying. Oh my God, and this I moved and threw rocks at me. Boy, bye. But I want y'all to see how these racists are painting this. And these are the racists who Donald Trump loves. These are the racists who Donald Trump promotes. Did y'all hear that? DC. They started busing the black people in. This was a white city. They were busing the Negroes in. Oh. See, why don't you just go ahead and say it, Benny? Damn it. We screwed up bringing all them Negroes over from Africa. Damn. Why couldn't they just leave? Because this is ours. I've said this to y'all on so many occasions. And I really, really, really need black people to understand the psychosis of white America. And the psychosis of white America. And if you want to understand white America, all you have to do is recognize this one scene in the movie directed by Robert De Niro. And that movie is called The Good Shepherd. And it's really a 48-second scene, but this is a little longer clip. And if you want to understand, and if you look at Benny Johnson right there, all you're looking at is Aryan Nation. He's speaking for Aryan Nation. Might be in a suit, might be bespoke with his little glasses, but he is speaking white nationalist rhetoric. This scene right here, it's going to set up my next guest. This scene right here literally explains Donald Trump, MAGA, and the phrase, "Make America Great Again." Listen.
Talk to me about it.
The government's about to deport you for certain activities.
I'm in this country since I'm 2 months old. Does that make me Italian? I'm American. And they're trying to send me back?
I could have the deportation order reviewed. Have you classified as highly sensitive for national security? I could take the government off your back if you can help us.
Usually the guys that scare me. You're the people that make big wars.
No, we make sure the wars are small ones, Mr. Palm.
Let me ask you something. We Italians, we got our families and we got the church. The Irish, they have the homeland. The Jews, their tradition. Even the niggers, they got their music. What about you people, Mr. Carlson? What do you have?
The United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting.
That look of Joe Pesci says it all. But you also notice, even in that scene, we weren't called blacks. We weren't called coloreds. We weren't called Negroes. It was the N-word. Michael Harriot is the founder of Contraband Camp, a publication you absolutely should be subscribing to. So Michael dropped this, and he does these tweet history lessons where he walks folks through the reality of history in this country. And he was tweeting about DC. Pull up the original tweet. He's pulling this, and this was started. He said, there's a long history of sending military officers into black cities to stop crime. In fact, I argue that this is what caused the Democrat and GOP realignment. The story involves gangbangers, bowling, a stolen election, and the civil rights era's bloodiest event, a thread. So I told my producers, get Michael on, because I think he should inform our audience of this. Michael, glad to have you back on the show. Walk us through that thread. Take it away.
Yeah. So first of all, I always point out when I talk about policing or crime is that the first thing we should know is police do not stop crime. It's a proven fact. But the thing that people think, there's a constitutional provision that prevents a president from, deploying soldiers as police forces is actually not a constitutional provision. It's a law that came during Reconstruction, which was bartered by the GOP. They love to say the KKK invented the Klan. The Democrats invented the Klan. But after the Civil War, Black soldiers mostly were occupying the South, preventing many of these outrages, even though during Reconstruction there were a lot of white terrorist gangbangers who were committing what they call outrages against Black citizens. So they passed a law after they bartered away Rutherford B. Hayes' presidency for Jim Crow, the Compromise of 1877. What they agreed to was to remove these troops from the South and passed a law called the Posse Comitatus Act, right? And what it does is what we think it does, prevent a president from weaponizing the military against American citizens. But when it came to Black people, it never applied, right? So that's how they applied it, used it during the Civil Rights era. My uncle, many of the people Bakari Sellers' father, right? Everybody who marched in the 60s, that's how they were attacked by white people, but the president usually called in the National Guard to protect the white people, right? Remember when George Wallace took his stand at the schoolhouse door, he was called an insurrectionist. He was technically an insurrectionist, which allowed JFK to call up the troops. But he wasn't protecting the people who were integrating the school. He was protecting the white people, the white onlookers. You can even go back to all of the things that they call riots, right? The Watts riot. Literally most 23 of the 34 people killed during the Watts riots were shot by police or National Guardsmen. The same thing with Detroit, the same thing we saw in 92 with Rodney King. The Orangeburg Massacre in Orangeburg in 1968 is the classic example when police, National Guardsmen, and state troopers opened fire and shot 33 Black people, most of them in the back, killing 3. They shot Cleveland Sellers, and then they charged him with the crime. To this day, there's never been an investigation. But the history of deploying troops to keep Black people in check is as American as sweet potato pie, because, nobody here eats apple pie. But the thing we have to remember is, this is a show of force, right? The only thing that's going to stop Trump is the people. And he surrounded the nation's capital with soldiers, not cops now. That's why I don't think we should be even talking about the crime rate, because he's not sending police officers to D.C. He's not. Police officers are not. They have the same number of police officers today as they had last week, as they had last year. They just have more white men with guns. They just have more people who shoot people. They just have more people whose job it is to inflict violence. No police officers, right? No people, even regardless of how you feel about police officers, there are no more police officers in D.C. than there were last week. What he has is people who show force and use violence to do.
And see, on this particular point here, Michael, when we look at what all this is a TV show. This is a TV show. Everything about Donald Trump is a television show. Everything is reality TV. Whether it's Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem playing dress up on horses, on boats, holding guns the wrong way. Whether it's Pete Hegseth standing there flying the drones. It is about the theater. And what he also has right now, and I was doing an interview yesterday, I was trying to explain to people what's going on. What he has in his favor is that Republicans control the House, the Senate, White House. He has a party that genuflects to every wish. They do not buck him. They bend over and say, please, do it to me harder. That's what they do. So he literally has been begging to be a dictator, and so they are allowing him to fulfill all of those wishes. And when Vice President Kamala Harris goes on Stephen Colbert, and when President Biden, when Democrats talk about guardrails, institutions, things along those lines, that to me is what they don't understand. That this system that the founding fathers, the white founding fathers, that they created, they actually believed that the system was going to create individuals who understood, don't cross that line, don't do that. Individuals who had morals, values, principle, ethics, integrity, honor, decency. And here comes, I dare say, even with a long line of racists that have been in the Oval Office, we have never, ever had somebody, even Richard Nixon, who was this immoral, this evil, this shameless, this despicable. And media played this game, putting him on the air. 2011, touting him running for president, treating it like it was a game show. Then it was like, oh shit, he actually is the nominee. Oh shit, he actually won. And that is what we're dealing with. Somebody where there's no bottom, and people have just said, oh, that's just Donald being Donald.
Right. And the thing you have to remember about this is that, like, a lot of the things that he's doing, right, it has nothing to do with political affiliation, because if we're being honest, some of our white liberal friends, right, they agree, like, there should be more people with guns on the street because they feel just like, you know, Joe Scarborough and his white panel was saying yesterday, we feel unsafe. You have to ask yourself why, right? Like, none of those people say, like, nobody did anything to them.
Right.
Right? They feel unsafe, and you have to ask yourself why. And that is the thing that we have to reckon with, and we have to use, just like you said, right? We have to know history. When you talk about the immorality, these people really believe like there's a guardrail of consciousness or morality that prevents Donald Trump from doing stuff. And there isn't, right? But if you believe in America, you believe like, you know, he can't just do stuff. What's stopping him? Besides some words some white men wrote on a paper 250 years ago, right?
Right.
Like if you don't enforce it, right? If you convict him of a crime and don't send him to jail,
right?
If you allow him to get the Supreme Court to say, yeah, we can't even prosecute him for crimes. If you allow Congress to say, look, the things that he did are impeachable offenses, but we're going to forgive him. If you allow them to overlook the law at every chance they get, except when they see some black people on the street making them uncomfortable, then we got to call the soldiers out. We didn't know how to enforce the law then. Then you realize like there is no law. It's just what they want. And then everything else. It's not a law or a constitution that could prevent them from doing what they want. We are the only ones who can, and we have to remember that. And I think the only thing that good that might come out of this is that they're going to burn it down themselves. It won't be all the consternation about riots and, you know, black people flooding the street and moving into their neighborhood and flinging expletives at them when they walking their baby through the hood. None of that is going to destroy them. All of those people are safe. None of the scofflaw rogue Negroes did anything to them. They're still here. And what's going to burn their country down is their whiteness.
Yeah, and what you're saying here, Michael, to the point that you just made, this is literally Tom Homan. This is literally what he says on C-SPAN, and I need people to understand, especially all them Chicago red Negroes who are black complaining about undocumented workers, and they talk about how they love them some Trump. This is Tom Homan. This is what he actually said. Listen.
Control got, you know, undertaken very, very quickly. D.C. is a dangerous place. I don't go to the streets at night without a gun, and you know, is dangerous. I mean, we see the crime in D.C., and you got the Democrats saying the crime isn't that bad. Come on, you walk through the streets of D.C., it's not safe to walk the streets at night here. And President Trump, this is the capital of the greatest country in the world. We should have a capital that's safe for tourists, for citizens. Anybody comes to the greatest nation on earth, our capital should be a showpiece. And President Trump, he's going to make sure not only is it safe, it's a showpiece for the whole world. And that's the right thing to do for the greatest nation on earth.
30 days is enough for that, or do you think it would need to be longer?
President Trump doesn't have a limitation on his authority to make this country safe again. There's no limitation on that.
Thank you, Mr. Roland. Thank you.
Freeze right there. Michael, he says Trump does not have a limitation. What he's saying, he can do whatever the hell he wants in the country.
Right, and in some respects, right, he's right? Like, we keep citing laws when the Supreme Court said he has no limitations, right? We keep citing laws when we see Congress say he has no limitations. We keep citing laws when the federal courts keep saying, yeah, let him do what he wants to, right? So in a sense, he's right. But the interesting thing about it, right, like the no limitations thing only applies again when white people start getting heebie-jeebies, right? Like there are limitations. Like remember what the founding fathers said about guns that protect when we feel threatened by gun laws, right? Like the intransigence on common sense gun reform is limited by the Constitution, but Trump has no limitations. The intransigence on DEI is limited by, I don't know, they make some stuff up, but Trump has no limitations, right? Like, so when they want what they want, there is no limitations. But whenever we really want to keep people safe by saying, let's propose like some common sense gun laws, or let's propose to make schools actually equal, or let's propose some limits on tax or these corporations who pay no taxes, then they love to cite laws and the constitutions and the courts and the history then, right? Because again, it only applies to us. Like the laws, the constitutions, those limitations apply to us. But when they get a white man who's going to protect their interests, protect whiteness, there are no limitations.
And to that particular point, this is this idiot today unveiling the folks who are going to be honored the Kennedy Center honors, where exactly what you just said, and Pam, I'll get ready for your questions, where he's like, I don't need Congress. I can do the hell I want. Listen to this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your federalization of the police has a 30-day limit unless Congress acts to extend it. Are you talking to Congress about extending it, or do you believe 30 days is sufficient?
Well, if it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress, but we expect to be to Congress before Congress very quickly. And again, we think the Democrats will not do anything to stop crime, but we think the Republicans will do it almost unanimously. So we're going to need a crime bill that we're going to be putting in, and it's going to pertain initially to D.C. It's almost, we're going to use it as a very positive example, and we're going to be asking for extensions on that, long-term extensions, because you can't have 30 days. 30 days that's by the time you do it. We're going to have this in good shape, and don't forget, in the border, everyone said it would take years and you'd have to go back to Congress. I never went to Congress for anything. I just said, close the border. And they closed the border. And that was the end of it. I didn't go back to Congress. We're going to do this very quickly, but we're going to want extensions. I don't want to call national emergency. If I have to, I will. But I think the Republicans in Congress will approve this pretty much unanimously.
Michael, he said, I don't need Congress. And he has a party that, yes, Your Highness, please do as your will. We will, yes, Your Highness, go right ahead. Knowing full well that if a Democrat president said that shit, Fox News would be going crazy, conservative talk radio, digital, Republicans left and right. And here's the difference, Michael. Democrats. And that's the difference. Right. Republicans, they're like, shut up, whatever, do whatever he wants. And this is the big difference. And to your point about they do whatever they want to, and this is actually a complaint that black people have for Democrats. You say you're going to do something, but you don't do it. This evil bastard, he does it. And MAGA's like, that's why I voted for him.
Right, like the Democratic Party's fecklessness, we can't overlook that, right? Because if there was a legitimate argument for a president or Congress to do something about DC, right? Or to cut jobs like excise from the federal department. Like there are 17,000 there's social workers who work for the federal government. Like, why didn't he send them into DC? Nah, he's sending soldiers. But the Democrats could have done that too, right? They could have sent like all of these federal workers. They could have put them in schools. They could have used them to educate people, because we know that is actually what deters crime, right? More education, better economic opportunity, right? But the Democrats sat on their hands, and they perpetuate the idea that police or men with guns stop crime, right? If they had been making this argument for the last 4 years, maybe some black people would have got out of their seats and went and supported them for president, right? But they wait and really capitulate to whiteness the same way that Donald Trump does by perpetuating these ideas, because they're afraid to tell the truth or to speak truthfully and factually to the people, because they know that white people are going to get the heebie-jeebies when you first tell them that, hey, that doesn't solve crime. But if they just did what Donald Trump did, right, use their authority to do what Donald Trump did, and control the House or the Senate, then by now they wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Or do what Mayor Brandon Scott did in Baltimore. So you have examples of, if you actually attack the root causes of crime, crime will go down. To your point, it ain't more cops.
Right, and that's
which was actually what defund police was. Shift the resources. But we know what happened there. Go ahead, then I'm gonna go to my panel.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're saying, right? They're bringing up defund the police as if everybody was saying, like, no, take that police money and give it to, I don't know, reparations or, Kool-Aid funds or something like that. But what we were saying is, like, if you want to stop crime, take the money from the police, the dudes with guns, and give it to social workers, give it to teachers, put it in schools, put it in job opportunities, make corporations pay their fair share. But now we're at a point in an oligarchy where the corporations are paying less than their fair share. Everybody else is losing healthcare, education funding, history, and now we're wringing our hands. And that is one of the biggest complaints that black people have with the Democratic Party.
And this is why I've said, Michael, point blank, that a Democrat that runs in 28, and if they win, my position is, I ain't doing none of that shit. What I mean by that is, are you going to release your transcripts? Hell no. Are you going to release your health records? Hell no. Are you going to divest your assets? Hell no. And then if I get in that White House, I'm going to run the damn table. My whole deal is, and don't try to sit here and all of a sudden put brakes when you didn't put in Donald Trump, but I'm not confident that there's a single Democrat that has the guts to go that hard. Let me go to my panel. Let me go first to Larry.
Yeah, Michael, really enjoy all your work. And so I want to talk a little bit. You talked about the National Guard, and we are a full-blown in authoritarian government, in my opinion. And so when you look at it as a historian, we see what's happened in LA and DC in terms of using the National Guard. What does history tell us about what the future looks like in America in terms of policing and the use of military and particularly force?
Well, we know what it looks like, right? When Benny, whatever his name is, was talking about all of those cities that burned down, like they burned down with the National Guard was there, right? Like whatever they say about when they talk about DC and the riots in DC after MLK died in Chicago during the 68, like the National Guard was there, but they are not police, so it did not work. Right. So history tells us that. And the thing is, right, like we know from history, like from Reconstruction, from the Civil Rights Movement, whenever, again, when white people feel threatened and there are people around with guns, they're going to shoot white people. Like, look at the reports that came after the Chicago riots or the Detroit riots in '67. And read the manner in which people died. A guy who was a security guard standing in front of the store, making it secure, was shot by a National Guardsman. Right? A woman coming home from work whose child slipped out to ride his bike was shot by a National Guardsman. We know from history how this turns out, right? Like, there's no good thing. Like, what is the crime that standing on a corner will stop? None. With a gun, with a soldier, a trained killer. Again, these people are not trained in law enforcement. They're not trained investigators. They're not trained to follow leads. They're just people who are literally trained to shoot when they are threatened, or when something threatens property, or when something threatens their mission. And their mission this time is Donald Trump. It's not crime, right? It's just Donald Trump.
And also, they're not on every street corner. So if you are hell-bent on robbing somebody, you're just going to go where the cops, you're going to go where these soldiers are not. Simple as that. Rebecca?
Michael, I'm trying so hard not to cuss tonight because my 75-year-old dad.
Go ahead, cuss, Rebecca. Let it loose.
Look, my daddy is a former Kojic pastor, right? So
hey, listen. I was taught how to cuss by a Catholic priest. So I know, Rebecca, I know some cussing. I know some cussing. Rebecca, I know some cussing Kojic pastors. I know some cussing Kojic pastors. Go ahead.
Reverend Deacon Henry Carruthers. So, like, Michael, here's the thing. This is what I'm struggling with. Why do white Democrats act like they don't know how to fight white Republicans? Like, white people know how to fight each other. Like, most of the issues over the last 500 years has been white people fighting against each other. And so it's not like they don't know how to do it, or they're not the descendants of people who did it. But what is it about white Democrats now who act like they don't know how to take the fight to white Republicans? Because that's, as a Black woman, I'm watching this and I'm watching white people fight.
Well, I think one of the things
what's going on.
I think one of the problems that we're having is we're framing this as a Democrat versus Republican thing, when many of the white Democrats, again, feel like, oh, we got to call police. If we want to attack crime, we got to call police. If we want to, secure the border, we got to send people with guns to the border, right? Like, there is this mentality that white people with guns will protect us. And it kind of is true, right? Like, white people are safer, generally, statistically, when there are more white people with guns, and the converse is true with Black people. But the thing that we have to realize is that the people who are going to attack this problem are probably going to be Democrats, but it is not the institution or the party of Democrats that is going to attack this problem, right? Like some of the people are Democrats who are going to fight this. But if the Democratic Party had any interest in fighting this, right? Like, why not have a civilian force following every single, like, it's 800 people. They could, coalesce 800 white people in 30 minutes when, if somebody saw a puppy or a kitten in trouble, right? Having them follow every single soldier through DC, right? There are solutions for this, right? Like, if we attack it from the standpoint of actually caring about the people of DC, then we would have a solution. But the problem is, like, their side has people who are in lockstep, and half of our side, if we're going to be honest, and this is a place where we can be honest, are working against our interests, right? Like, they want more police too. They think that, well, if we put some more dudes with guns on the corners, then maybe, I can walk, I will feel safe. Like, their metric, literally, we're saying, the crime is down 30%, and their metric is, but I don't feel safe. There is nothing that policy or a force or a strategy to do that can make people feel a certain way. That can make these people feel some way, right? Like, we have to attack it with logic and reason. But their counter argument is, but what if I feel differently? So I think that we have to understand, if we're going to be in this fight, like, not everybody's on our side, even if they're on the Democratic side or the side that we vote under, they're not really on our side.
So it sounds like you're saying white people are being irrational.
Now, I'm not saying white people, right? I'm saying it is irrational for us to believe that white people are going to do something about this. It has never, ever happened in the history of this country. Look at the civil rights movement, right? Look at the Reconstruction. Look at the anti-lynching movement. Look at slavery, right? There has never been a movement for racial justice or equality that the majority of white Americans have supported. That is a fact. It is an unequivocal fact. Not even 30%, right? So it would be crazy for us to even sit here and focus our attention on what white people are going to do. Because we know what white people are going to do. History tells us, the present tells us, every second of the future tells us.
And we saw what happened when a majority of Americans, for the first time in American history, approved of a black movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. And these white folks lost their mind. And everything we've seen since then has been a result of that. Like, we just can't even, for that brief moment, and I was saying to put people in, keep your foot on their necks, because the history of white folks is they will flip that page so fast and say, all right, we good. We did everything. All right, that's enough. We done enough for y'all. The history is right there. But when you don't read history, that's why they want to ban books. That's why they want to change history. That's why they don't want to tell the real story. That's why they want his story, because it's a fact. So when America celebrates its 250 years next year, I'm telling you right now, we ain't following that bullshit coming out of the Oval Office. We're going to tell a totally different story. In fact, I know, Michael, it was driving you crazy. You could not pull your hair out, so you probably were pulling the hair out your eyebrows and your beard out yesterday when you were watching Joe Scarborough with his bullshit on Morning Joe on MSNBC. Let me go ahead and just play 50 seconds of this, him talking to Eugene Robinson. I mean, see, listen, since I fired back at Mika 2015, they ain't had me on. So it's been a decade since I've been on Morning Joe, because I'm way too black. So I don't know how long since they call you, but they ain't really trying to call people like us. But listen to this.
And I want to read you a text from someone who I won't say their name, but they're, we'll just say that they're very liberal.
Even get it out of his mouth. He wasted 13 seconds. Okay, so they're very liberal. No, but you know what he didn't say? A white liberal friend of mine. Let me go ahead and play the rest.
And he says, this may sound controversial, but I'm not totally opposed to Trump's National Guard move in D.C. I know he's doing it for politics, but crime remains rampant. I've had too many friends carjacked, shot at. None of us will walk more than 3 blocks after 8 p.m. 13-year-olds are committing many of these crimes. Quite a change from a decade ago when things were much calmer. Well, that actually sounds like the D.C. that I lived in when I lived a block behind the Supreme Court. And, you know, every 3 days, one of my neighbors was getting held up at gunpoint. I mean, there has been a crime problem in D.C.
And he's saying all of this sitting in his Florida house he shares with Mika, his wife.
Yeah, but you know what the interesting thing about that is, I truly believe, like, a white person might have sent that to him, and I believe it, right? Here's a theory, though. Well, not a theory, right? This has been proven by statisticians, is that feeling that he's talking about, that what he saw, that carjacking and those robberies, is a result of the gentrification of D.C. It's just more white people living around in places where, like, they were secured from, even seeing crime for most of the history. But now that you're walking through D.C. where black people live and where black people used to live, and you're seeing, like, the thing that has been going on for a century and is going on less now than it used to be, but white people see it now because of social media, because they're living next door to black people, right? that is where the unsafe feeling comes from, right? And so it's not that there are more carjackings. We know that there are less carjackings, less murders, less violent crime in DC, but white people are seeing it more. And now, because they are gentrifying black neighborhoods, I mean, everybody here is, right? We've all been in DC. And I've been going to DC and working in DC for years. And I am shocked often when I see white people walking in some neighborhoods. Not because I think they're going to be attacked or anything, but like it's some neighborhoods where you would never see white people going. And you see now a white lady jogging with a poodle. And that's where that feeling and that unsafe heebie-jeebie is coming from, not the fact that there is more crime.
I mean, we first of all, we all know the running joke. All of a sudden, you driving around, it's like, y'all see them two white women jogging? Uh-oh, the neighborhood done flipped. And what we also know, police presence is gonna be different. I mean, it's a running joke. I mean, that's really what's going on. And see, when Scarborough sits here, what's amazing to me is to listen to Scarborough try to paint the picture of DC. Look, I came here and we had a resource visit. I was at Texas A&M. This was summer of 1988. Dude, I remember just right, hell, I think it's right across the street where the park, hey, this is K Street. It was Prostitution Row. I mean, I remember we came in and Doc, we was standing on the street like, damn, it was Prostitution Row. We know what that is. Joe Scarborough is literally trying to say that, oh yeah, that's how awful DC is right now. It's just total mayhem. And I'm like, what? All these people, I love how now all of a sudden these white folks got all these stories of, oh my God, how awful it is, how bad it is. You can't walk. I literally walk multiple blocks in DC all the time. I'll go to U Street and I'll park 6 blocks away and because ain't no parking and to go to the theater to see Dave Chappelle's show. And then I'll go over here to dinner. Then I'll go over here. I mean, it's so bullshit. And if Joe Scarborough was a real journalist, which he's not, okay, if Mika would stop sitting here just being a supplicant and say, you know what? Why don't we actually pull up the map to be able to show where crime is happening in the nation's capital? And when you do that, then all of a sudden, you might then go, well, wait a minute. These are the 2 or 3 areas. Now, let's now be inquisitors and ask what those areas look like economically. What's the credit score in those areas? What's the rental rate in those areas? What's the poverty rate? See, they don't want to do any of that, Michael, because, see, that requires work. It actually requires you to ask some questions, and then it's going to require resources.
Right, and the other thing is, right, like that's first of all, that's one of my favorite exercises is when you overlay a crime map, which most big cities have now, with where people who live in poverty and where police patrol, and right, like the crime rate is generated by police patrols, right? Like how do police know where crime is taking place? Because they stop people and charge them with crime. We know, like, for instance, black people are 5 times more likely to be stopped by police, but white people are actually more likely to have illegal contraband on them. So it's just a self-determining circle. But the reality is, like I wanted to throw my TV on the floor when I was listening to that conversation on Morning Joe, because it started off with policing, and the whole conversation has nothing to do with police. He's not sending police to DC. Right. So they're saying, I'm cool with him sending, and this is what you have to reiterate time and time again. He's just sending men with guns. No trained police officers, no social workers, no educators, just men, white dudes with guns.
Right, and that was the point that Governor Wes Moore went on Fox News, went on multiple networks saying, he said, as somebody who actually put the uniform on.
Right.
He said, they ain't trained to do this. He said, they're not trained to do this. They're trained to set up checkpoints. They're trained to that's what they're trained for. They ain't trained for policing.
Right. And then when you think about that, right, they're training, like we're not sending full active duty MPs to who've done it overseas.
Yeah. Military police.
Right.
Police in the military. There you go.
They're sending just like, why didn't they send welders or people who catch butterflies? Or like, because these people have as much training in doing this job as, just give them some guns too. And they will probably shoot and kill less people.
Yeah, that's it. Michael, before we go to my iPad, explain to people what Contraband Camp is.
Contraband Camp is a collective of Black journalists who are dedicated to telling our stories and our voices to our people. We have Pulitzer Prize winners, and your favorite journalists are on there writing, talking, explaining every day. And it's not just politics, it's culture, it's news, and it's a way to kind of combat the decline of what they used to call mainstream journalism. Well, I guess Roland is mainstream now because he's like one of the top most watched news. He's the most watched Black news shows and one of the most watched news shows in the country. So like I can't, throw shade at mainstream news on a mainstream show. But when I go to the Uncle Roll Awards, hopefully.
Okay, so but everybody listening, y'all go, what's the Uncle Roll Awards? Okay, y'all. Okay, it's a media chat group we're in, and that thing just sprung up. So it actually might happen. We'll see. Okay, but Michael, so here's the only thing so I'm on Contraband Camp. If people want to donate, subscribe, what do they click?
Click that red subscribe button. It's $5.99 a month, $50 a year, and all of that money, every cent, goes to a Black journalist. And I think that is what we're doing. We're training, bringing up young journalists, and having them be trained and intermix with some of the award-winning journalists we know and love.
All right, so we need to. So if I'm sitting here looking at this here, and it has a login, it has all of this sort of stuff. The only thing I would suggest is that somewhere on here, like that pricing be right there, because I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to figure out that way when somebody goes, well, how much it actually costs? I know what it is.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'll do it. Again, I always take suggestions from mainstream media.
Well, Michael, I appreciate it. It was a great thread and a fantastic conversation. And again, folks, yes, I do subscribe. So y'all understand, I do support Black-owned media as well. I am a subscriber to Contraband Camp. Y'all go as well. Go to contrabandcamp.com, CONTRABAND camp, CAMP.com, and just explain to people, Michael, the origins of the name.
After the Civil War, most of the Black cities, most of the Black political movements originated in these camps where Black people freed themselves and organized themselves, and they were called contraband camps because before the passage of the 13th Amendment, and Black people who ran away from slavery, they were not citizens, but they were not slaves. They were considered contraband of war.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I see people in our chat are saying they just subscribed. So, Michael, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, going to go to a break. We come back. Y'all know white folks going white. We're going to tell you what they did in Texas, restoring the name of a white domestic Confederate terrorist on a school. You can thank Donald Trump for that. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Blackstar Network.
Now streaming on the Blackstar Network. getting like this major artist like Snoop to be like, yeah, you're gonna be the flagship of Death Row Records is crazy. Because I'm like, okay. When he got the call, I was in the room. He was sealing the deal. It's done. And I was like, man, congratulations. You know, I got me a drink. You know, he rolled up, and we were sitting there talking, and I was like, oh man, I can't imagine how many rappers you're gonna have on this label. It's gonna be. He was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's Death Row, Tupac, Suge, the whole look. And he's just like, no, you're gonna be the flagship for it. You're gonna do it first. And I'm like,
you try. Well, look, I'm
like, I'm R&B. Like,
right.
This Death Row's not R&B. He said it is now. He was like, I'll get rappers later. Don't worry about that, but I want you to take over. I'm like, oh, I was nervous. I was like, there's no way this is gonna work. People are, and of course you get a little backlash from, on the comment section, when he's posting about it. It's just like, he's R&B, that's not Death Row. And we had to slowly kind of get people acclimated to it.
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Well, Donald Trump is giving white folks permission to just white on a Texas high school. They are bringing back the original name of a high school that honored a white domestic terrorist Confederate general. The Midland Independent School District's Board of Trustees voted 4-3 to rename Legacy High School and bring the name back to Robert E. Lee, reversing a decision made 5 years ago to distance the district from Confederate ties. The board agreed to change the name of the high school, and they say the decision followed more than 2 hours of public comment. With more than 45 residents speaking on the issue, parents, alumni, and former teachers voiced concerns over the renaming, arguing that honoring Lee, commander of the Confederate Army, brings up painful memories of segregation and racial injustice. Despite the controversy, Superintendent Stephanie Howard noted the name change could cost the district up to $62,000. Now, you would think white conservatives in Midland who care about finances will say, well, but that's a waste of money. But see, when you get to restore white nationalism and white supremacy, then you can do those things. Oh, do y'all know what the school mascot is, don't you? Are y'all aware of what they are? Let me go ahead and just show you what they are. Let me go ahead and pull this up because it really does speak to what we're dealing with. And we make this point all the time to y'all because you have to understand how white supremacy operates and how they work. And this isn't the only school. This let's just be real clear. This is not the only one. Others are changing their name. Yeah, they're called the Midland. Called the Robert E. Lee Rebels. They're the rebels. And see, when you have white conservatives on national television supporting these things, well, they show who they are. So you take Scott Jennings. Oh, conservatives love him, and CNN loves having him on. Because in essence, Abby Phillips' show is really the Abby Phillips Scott Jennings show, or actually, it's the Scott Jennings Abby Phillips show, because he often is talking over her, even though she's the host. And I've also been told that people who work at CNN have been told you do not argue, nor do you shame Scott Jennings. They have been put in their place when they've done that. Yes, that's exactly what my sources tell me. So here's a tweet that Scott Jennings sent out about 4 hours ago. Go to my iPad. The last time we talked about reviewing historical exhibits was when liberal mobs tore down historical statues across the country. Y'all, he's talking about the Confederate statues, the white domestic terrorist statues. The people who are the angriest about Trump's Smithsonian Museum review are the people who cheered that on. Spare me your outrage. Let me go ahead and play this exchange, and then we'll comment. Listen.
Yeah, the last time we sort of talked about the changing of historical exhibits was when all these angry mobs all over the country tore down historical statues all over the place, and the people who seemed to be angriest about the Smithsonian review were cheering that on. So I agree with you. Occasionally, parts of our society do look into
those statues in
history.
museums.
And so, no, they didn't look like they were putting them in museums when they were tying ropes around them and dragging them down. You may be misremembering how it happened, but that's what happened.
I'm not here to justify people tearing things down and this and that, but I just think it is grand that right at this table, I can't hear from both of you. You can't even just say politicians should not be editing our history and trying to change our history. That's what they're doing. I don't believe they're changing our history. I don't believe that that's what they're doing. It is what he has been trying to do.
All right, we got to leave it there. Congressman Maxwell.
Okay, so here's the problem I have with that whole exchange. And Abby Phillip, S.C. Cupp, you have the Congressman Frost there. Y'all, I understand words. I understand why words matter. Scott Jennings literally sat there and said, oh, the liberal mob tore down historical statues. Oh, I remember they were attaching ropes and just tearing them down. I'm sorry, I'm disappointed by Chuck Rocha and Abby and SC and Congressman Frost by not saying, stop. What we're not going to do is we're not going to rewrite history in a conversation about rewriting history. And that's exactly what they did there. First of all, historical statues were not torn down. Racist Confederate monuments were torn down. Most of them, nearly all of them, were removed by votes from school city councils, county commissioners, school boards. That's what happened. That's what happened. So this idea that, oh, angry liberal mobs were just going around and just tearing things, no, that's not what happened. So Scott Jennings should have been corrected when he made that particular point. But see, this is why Republicans, I remember late Chris Metzler, conservative, Republicans used to say, Chris, why you always go on Roland's show? When we go on, he yells at us. Chris said, because y'all asses lie. Chris said, y'all lie when y'all go on Roland's show. He said, I'm not dumb enough to lie because Roland gonna catch me in the lie. See, so I want y'all to understand how in that 48-second soundbite, how Scott Jennings was subversive in trying to reframe this also in his tweet, which is why I'll show y'all. I responded to his tweet, go to my iPad. I said, no, Scott Jennings, racist, white, domestic, Confederate statues were torn down. Get the language right. That is a fact, Larry. And that is what we oppose. And these white folks in Midland, Texas, voted, bring the racist name back, because these white folks love them some Robert E. Lee and what he stood for. And what Robert E. Lee stood for was to keep what Robert E. Lee stood for was to never see Larry, Rebecca, and Roland free people.
Mean by make America great again. They mean turn back the clock, go in a time machine and bring it to a time, like you said, black folks like us couldn't even have a conversation, let alone go to college, receive degrees. And this is why we have to push back on all this crazy rhetoric. And, CNN, and, Abby Phillips, congratulations on her success. But that platform is just nothing. All you do is he espouses a bunch of misinformation. It's propaganda. And this is how we got here in the first place. And that's why your show is so important in terms of have this conversation to call out this racism, call out what you see in Texas. My sister lives in Texas. And we're going to see more of this throughout the country, Roland, for any of these statues or names that were removed over the last couple of years by school boards and other leaders. What you're going to see is them reverting back to, putting these statues back up, renaming these, these institutions, which also we have to highlight in state like Texas, a bunch of Black and Latinx students in those schools. But those folks don't care about that. We need to vote those people out to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. But once again, if we don't stop this trend, it will happen nationwide.
This is the thing right here, Rebecca. And I was going to bring it up with Michael, but it's very simple. And we just have to be clear. If folks stay home and sit on their ass, and I mean a lot of white people, a lot of young people, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, Black folks, all of this will continue. There are state elections in November, here in Virginia, gubernatorial in New Jersey. You've got city council races, county commissioner races, school board races, judicial races. You've got DA races. Next year, you got the midterms. The only way to stop this, and this is why I keep trying to tell everybody, y'all need to stop listening to people like Umar Johnson, stop listening to Tariq Nasheed, ignore Boyce Watkins, ignore all of these people, and understand that when you have the political power, then you can change the economics, the community, the social, you can change everything. But if you choose to sit out elections, you are allowing somebody else to determine your fate.
It's hard for me to watch that segment with Abby Phillip, because I would feel like a piece of my soul would die night after night if I had to endure that. Because quite frankly, people like Scott Jennings, they have a unusual allegiance to losers, to quote Cat Williams. And shout out to Midland, Texas for letting us know they're a sundown town. And you could keep it. I don't got to go there. But you're right. There's 100,000 seats on the ballot this year. There's lots of down ballot races. That's 46 jurisdictions that have elections this year. And for people like Umar Johnson, look, you could recruit people to run a school boards, and then you can actually have public funding to fund schools that actually uplift and enrich Black boys, Black girls, Black people, Black students, and actually properly educate them. So there's many things that you can do if you are civically engaged. And the final thing that I will also say is that, yes, we talked about gerrymandering towards the beginning of this show, but there's a lot of statewide elections. You cannot gerrymander a statewide election. If you live inside that state, then you are eligible to vote in that particular election.
There you go.
So we have to be very strategic with what we do next. Will we survive this? Absolutely. But we need to come on the other side and have more power than what we have now, because right now it's not going to do it for us. It's going to put us only in survival and not actually to thrive. And we owe it to ourselves to actually build a future for us in which we're able to thrive.
Reverend Barbara sent me something earlier, and I'm going to try to play it, hopefully. And the timing could not be better. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to switch phones. The timing could not be better, because we were just talking about Scott Jennings. And this is what Reverend Barbara, hold on 1 second, let me switch. Reverend Barbara sent this to me. And when you talk about history in Kentucky, because Scott Jennings is from Kentucky. And this was very timely, what was sent to me about the history of Black people in Kentucky. So give me 1 second. Let me do something here. I need to turn off notifications. I don't want y'all to sit here and I get crazy text messages all throughout the show, news updates and all that good stuff. But I saw this and I said, wow, 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 wow. And it was, I had never heard of this story, but we know this has happened many places before, about Black communities literally being wiped out under the guise of expansion. Listen to this story.
Progress. But to the Black families of Adamstown,
let me take it back.
Progress. But to the black families of Adamstown, it was a death sentence. In the 1940s, the University of Kentucky bulldozed an entire black neighborhood to make room for Memorial Coliseum. No relocation plan, no compensation, just silence. Adamstown had been home to generations. Children played in the yards, families gathered on porches, and then it vanished under concrete and bleachers. But Adamstown wasn't the only one. Prawltown, the oldest surviving black neighborhood in Lexington, survived 2 waves of attempted erasure. Urban planners targeted it in 1951 and again in the 70s, calling it blighted, while investing nothing in its survival. But the people stayed, fought, resisted. Yet decades of disrepair followed, and homes crumbled while the city looked away. These neighborhoods weren't just streets and houses. They were culture, resistance, and community. And now, most Kentuckians don't even know they existed. When we say entire histories have been paved over in the name of development, this is what we mean. If you believe these stories matter, follow for more truth they didn't teach in school.
I guarantee you Scott Jennings won't bring that up on Abby Phillips' CNN show, Larry.
No, of course not. I mean, Roland, the sad thing about this, stories like that, and states throughout the country. I mean, we could go through the history, like I said, each state, and you have a number of stories in terms of black folks that have been, pushed out of communities. And when we talked about gentrification earlier, it still goes on. In the past, you certainly use more violence to push people out of black communities. And in this case, you saw University of Kentucky build the stadium. But, this is just an unfortunate part of U.S. history. And, Jennings is not going to talk about this because he doesn't care. And once again, it goes to my point earlier, Roland, we talk about Make America Great Again, is that they want to take us back to a time where, it's easy to continue to inflict violence against black men and women and children, and also to keep us in a place where we don't have the opportunity to work at certain jobs and do certain things to provide for our families. But this is also, this whole conversation is about power, who controls power. And often throughout U.S. history, in terms of where black folks have lived or try to thrive, violence has been used as a tool to push people out, black people out, and to punish us for just simply existing.
Rebecca, final comment.
You know what? Buckle down. It's going to be a long 3.5 years. We're only just over 6 months into this administration. They are nearly 50% through Project 2025. They're accelerating to finish the rest of Project 2025. Then they have their next set of plans for next year. And so it's really good for people to tune in to this nightly digital show. There's a reason why Roland right now is number 40. We need to get him into the top 10 because as we push through the next 3.5 years, there's going to be an increase in disinformation and targeted misinformation towards our communities. And we have to make sure we're informed so we know what to do next and we know what our marching orders are.
To that particular point, YouTube comes out every single week, y'all, with their listing of the weekly top podcast. And, we debuted at 76. The highest that we've ever been has been 46. But then it came out this week. Go to my iPad. You'll see right here, these are the weekly podcasts, and I'll just zoom in right here. And so you see, in terms from the African-American standpoint, what you're going to see here, you're going to see in a second, you're going to see Club Shay Shay, entertainment, Nightcap, that's sports. You're going to see the Pivot podcast, that's sports. You're going to see, of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's talking about science. You're going to see the 85 South Comedy Show. Of course, that's comedy as well. Right there, number 40. See Roland Unfiltered. It's the highest we've ever been. And I can't stress it enough. We are the only black newscast on here. We're the only, the rest of the folks, I mean, you might have some conservatives with their weekly shows, whatever. We're the only black newscast, the only news show, the only daily news show. And what I need our people to understand, y'all, we here every night. If I'm not here, we got a guest host. We here we putting it down every single night. having guests, you're not here. Not a single network will give Michael Harriot 45 minutes. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Then they're gonna give Michael 6 minutes to talk about his tweet thread. But when you own this, you don't have to ask somebody else's permission. Midnight, Jelana Jones sends me a text. Do you want me on your show tomorrow? Yes. Boom, she's on. Ben Crump, book him. Come on, talk Sonya Massey. Hey, put Michael on. Y'all, that ain't happening anywhere else. And on March 4th, when we had the State of Our Union, we had 250,000 people watching us live. We were number 5 on all of YouTube. 95% of those people don't return on a daily basis. Now, on YouTube alone, we hit 3,600 live viewers today. There's no reason, none, we should have less than 10,000. Now, let me be real clear. I don't hate on anybody else. I remember one night I tuned in to Chad and Shannon with 37,000 people watching them live. Not hating. Congrats. I talk to Shannon and Chad all the time. We text all the time. But what I'm trying to get us to understand is that literally what we're talking about, what Rebecca is speaking about, what Larry's speaking about, and Reese and Greg and Mustafa and Teresa and Omekongo and Niambi, and I can name all our panelists, we literally are talking about things that are life and death. We literally are talking about stuff that's going to impact our people for decades. And no disrespect to any conversation on any of the other podcasts, whether it's Club Shay Shay or Nightcap or Joe Budden or Comedy South or The Pivot or any of that. This is life and death. This is where the people eat. This is where the people keep their lights on. This is whether there's housing. This is whether they are able to get an education. We could go on and on and on. So I need all of us spreading the word, reposting our stuff, telling all of your social media followers, y'all should be tuned in to Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Blackstar Network, my show live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, and the other shows, because the information that we are providing, you literally are not getting anywhere else. Kathy Hughes coined the phrase, information is power. And lack of information, lack of knowledge, misinformation, disinformation disempowers you. We are entering the fall season. We're entering election season, mayoral election in New Orleans, elections in Virginia, elections in New Jersey. But not just elections. When we emphasize economics, black-owned products right here. What we are talking about here, y'all, literally is about reprogramming Black America away from who got the hottest clothes and shoes and cars to how do we truly rebuild Black America for good. And so your support is needed. We need you sharing our videos, posting them, putting them on TikTok, putting them on Instagram, telling folks to tune in. Because we've got to build this thing. There is no, if we were able, and this is the mistake, y'all, when you do it one time. And I guarantee you, Larry's a professor. He'll tell you. Rebecca, Fair Election Center, she'll tell you. When students study hard, grades change, right, Larry?
Absolutely.
And when you do it one time, you've shown you can do it again. When folks show up in big numbers, elections change, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
So, folks, if we proved on one night that we could get 250,000 live viewers who stayed with us for 5 hours, do y'all know that at midnight, we still had 101,000 people still watching? So we can prove on one night we can do that. You can't tell me every night we can't have 25, 30,000, 50,000, 75,000, 100,000 for 2 hours every night. As if we're willing to do it. As if we actually say it matters enough for me to tune in. So let me thank Larry and Rebecca for being on today's show. Folks, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. When I say you, your dollars matter, your dollars matter. Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App button to contribute. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Blackstar Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Brownie of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version that I read on Audible. Folks, also, get our Blackstar Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered swag. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. You can look at our T-shirts. It's right there on the website. Don't blame me, voted for the black woman. FAFO 2025 project crossed out. Get all of our gear. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support these black products, these black-owned companies on shopblackstarnetwork.com. HBCU legacy shirts, leafy toilet paper, black puzzles. I mean, on and on and on. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, our marketplace, and you can support black-owned companies by direct. And also, don't forget, get the app Fanbase. Download the app, use the app. If you want to invest, they've raised almost $13 million. The goal is $17 million in the Series A raise. Let's make that happen. Let's be owners and investors of our platforms. We have made Instagram rich. We've made Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook rich. Elon Musk are the people who started Twitter rich. We know how to make white folk billionaires. Can we not create a black tech company that becomes a unicorn and hits $1 billion valuation? Yes, we can if we want to. So invest in Fanbase. Get the information. StartEngine.com/Fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Also, let me shout out. So I got this here at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. They were selling the T-shirts. So you see right here, write, shoot, edit, report. I'm going to wear one, a couple of other shirts that we got as well. So a shout out to all of my NABJ folks. Y'all, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Blackstar Network. Holla!